I'm sure all of you know it very well. It's very popular and there are lots of its reviews on the internet. It catches your eye easily in every shop because of its huge box.
Planszową, która nazywa się Twilight Imperium. Na pewno wszyscy bardzo dobrze ją znacie. Jest dość popularna.
Why did we decide to review a board game that is so popular on the internet and you can easily find videos about it?
Przykuwa uwagę w każdym sklepie z racji na to, że pudło jest naprawdę wielkie.
We want to show you this game from a new angle. Let's see it after over 6 years from original publishing, it's still getting the job done. Follow us to the review and to a small montage in which we will explain why this is a cult title.
Dalej się broni. Zapraszamy was do recenzji.
Third edition of Twilight Imperium was published in 2005. However, the first game came out in 1997. It was Fantasy Flight Games' first game and it was responsible for their success. First edition sold out 2 prints. It was also enhanced with lots of expansions. In 2000, second corrected edition came out to once again show us an epic level of gameplay. Twilight Imperium is full of references to classics of science fiction such as Star Wars, Dune or Isaac Asimov's books. The game quickly became a model big box game. Twilight Imperium series is now active since 14 years and the current edition is 6 years old. This year Shards of the Throne expansion was published, not to mention Shattered Empire published in 2006. Even though game is 6 years old, it still provokes discussion. For example, is it a part of 4X genre? The game is a definition of new school Ameritrash. Despite any controversies, TI is unquestioned classic, ranking 27th on Board Game Geek and 11th on highly respected board game reviewer Tom Vassell's top 100 favorite games of all time. For many years, fans of the game are creating homemade expansions and home rules just as breathtaking as the game itself. Twilight Imperium is a board game for 3 to 6 players, which, as the producers state, should take from 3 to 4 hours. Don't be fooled. You can't finish Twilight Empire in 3 to 4 hours. This is impossible. Absolutely. You can't do that. Even with only 3 players, it takes 6 hours at best. Don't forget about unpacking, setting up and buying a bigger table. In this small box you'll find so many elements you won't be able to fit them on the table. It will take a lot of time just to set up this game and clean it up when all is done. Please have plenty of time when approaching this game. Let's get to unboxing. I have my copy already prepared, packed in small boxes, string bags and card sleeves. You will have to unfortunately buy all of this yourselves. Let's see what you'll get when buying this game.
W takim razie, co dostajecie kupując tą grę? Przede wszystkim do gry dołączona jest...
First of all, this here piece of cardboard which is not really required for anything and you can just throw it out unless you are emotionally attached to this illustration, which is beautiful. Inside the box you'll find a smooth paper, beautifully printed rulebook with a fabulous introduction to the game. Lots of nice pictures here, so you'll know what's inside the box and how to use it. There's like a million of precisely described rules here, so prepare an extra day to learn them.
Dokładnie opisanymi regułami, których jest milion i przygotujcie sobie kolejny dzień na nauczenie się.
There's also something really important in the back. History of the game and its editions.
Historią wydania gry, ponieważ to już 3. edycja. Oprócz tego...
Apart from that, we'll also get plenty of small plastic figures representing spaceships. I have mine packed in small boxes. You'll need a lot of them. Figures are attached in 6 different colors and there are a few different types of them. More on that later.
Statki są dołączane w 6 kolorach i jest ich parę różnych rodzajów, o których opowiem potem, dokładnie opisując zasady gry.
A big flaw of the game is that if you want to set up and play fast or just keep the game in mint condition, because it's kinda expensive, you'll need card sleeves and boxes. Boxes aren't really a problem because you can buy some cotton swabs, getting yourselves a set of boxes for less than 10 zlotys, which is like €3. The problem starts with card sleeves. They are quite expensive. For 50 pieces set, you'll have to pay from 8 to 10 zlotys and you'll need 9 sets of those.
Płacimy od 8 nawet do 10 zł, a potrzebujemy takich opakowań na tą grę 9 sztuk. Oprócz tego Fantasy Flight Games wydaje też takie naprawdę...
Apart from that, FFG produces this really super sweet card sleeves, available in 50 pieces sets, ornamented with front cover illustration from the game. Too bad they aren't made in any size used by the game, and even though I would love to have them, I don't really know what I would put inside. Okay, now I will show you what's inside the box. I won't show it in exact quantities because it wouldn't fit my table. However, I will show you how it's crafted, and believe me, it's done beautifully. It's one of the best produced games out there. Everything is nice and durable.
To jest dość ważne. Więc tak, w pudełku znajdziemy karty raz.
Race sheets. There are 10 of those. Really cool thing about them is that on the back there's a fabulous background of each race, so it's easy to identify with your race of choice, making the game quite epic.
Dzięki czemu gra nabiera takiego epickiego naprawdę wymiaru i możemy się identyfikować z tym, w co gramy. Znajdziemy też tutaj taką małą miareczkę.
A small point track. We'll use this to determine who won and when did it happen.
Oprócz tego znajdziemy też
cardboard hexagonal tiles from which we'll construct the board. Every time the board will be different, which is very cool. On each of those there's a planet, a wormhole or something special, like asteroid field, which makes the galaxy diversified and it's fun to fly all over it.
Dzięki czemu ta galaktyka jest naprawdę zróżnicowana i fajnie się po niej lata. W grze mamy do wyboru parę rodzajów...
And now some of the units available in the game.
Myśliwiec,
a fighter,
transporter,
a carrier,
krążownik,
a cruiser,
dreadnought,
a dreadnought,
oraz Słońce Wojny, które jest...
and a war sun, which is an obvious Star Wars reference.
Wśród figurek znalazły się także figurki...
Apart from that, we also have a ground troops figure and space docks in which we will build our spaceships. And this thing here is a planetary defense system. Each of the races will get their own set of elements. These are trade treaties, command counters, and flags to keep track of different important things. Apart from that, we also get 6 decks of technology cards. Each deck consists of the same cards, but works differently for each race.
Tak naprawdę za każdym razem grając inną rasą, te technologie będą zachowywały się w różny sposób, tak samo jak statki. Dla każdej rasy będą inaczej się zachowywać, mimo że każda z nich ma taki sam ich zestaw i taki sam do nich dostęp.
This is how technology cards look like. I believe there's about 50 of them in each deck. In order to win the game, we have to achieve goals that are presented by objective cards, both public and secret. Inside of the box, you'll find about bazillion of action cards. Bug is not included, you'll have to buy it yourself. There's really a lot of these cards and they work kinda like instants in Magic the Gathering. Here we have distant suns markers, which are basically surprises we can find all across the galaxy. Sometimes they can be pretty nasty. Here's a bag of trade goods and infantry and fighter tokens, which are the only unlimited units in the game. Planet card deck. Every planet has a card of its own, so we can get to know what's going on in there. Political deck. Casting those will successfully prevent our enemies from having a comfortable game. This is how it looks like, folks. Politics in the game will always eventually lead to negative interactions. Well, I'm smiling because that always makes me happy. Let's not forget about 4 10-sided dices. Axis of gameplay is created by those 10 tiles, the strategy cards. Each of the shown elements will be brought to you in different quantities than shown by me. Cardboard parts will come in big sheets of cardboard from which you'll have to push them out. This is one of the game's downsides. Sometimes when pushing out the command counters, it started to shred the paper it's covered with, so it's good to have a small knife with yourself when doing that.
Się zaopatrzyli w jakiś może skalpel albo mały nożyk, dzięki któremu będzie to o wiele wygodniejsze. Oprócz tego zarezerwujcie też sobie przynajmniej...
Please reserve one whole day for cutting the figures from a plastic inlays. I have them separated here because I play the game as often as I can, but they come in those kinda shit things from which you'll have to cut them. And believe me, it takes a lot of time, so be patient and scissors equipped. Each of the races have 3 leader tokens, and it gives the game this epic feeling that we really control some heroes who will fly through the galaxy to accomplish some extremely difficult missions for us and influence the way our Imperium works. If you are still not convinced that the box is filled with stuff because we've showed only some small amounts, we will now show a picture of the box, so you can see the box is jammed to the limits. It's flooded with stuff.
Świadomość tego, że tam naprawdę ono jest zawalone rzeczami, wypchane po same brzegi.
Okay, now for some strategy tips, and you will need those. This is the only board game I've ever heard of to have a fan-made strategy guide 60 pages long. You can download it below. The most important advice I can give you is to read all of the action cards, secret objective cards and public objective cards before game begins to get into the metagame, to be aware of what we can expect from other players. It's really important to bluff in this game. Often players will threaten to play some powerful action cards before battles. Knowing action cards is the key to look through that bluff and determine if the given card is really a threat and if the threatening player really has it.
Znając kartę akcji, będziemy w stanie faktycznie ocenić, czy dana karta faktycznie może nam zagrozić i czy dany gracz w ogóle ją posiada, czy tylko próbuje nas nabrać.
One of the most important things in game is so-called stalling, sitting there and doing nothing, performing some junk actions in order to rewind your turn to be able to act as a last person. One of the races has even a special ability letting us do it much more easily, letting you to sit there and pass your actions. Acting at the end of the round, when everybody has spent their command counters, is really important and may be the key to the victory. The greatest key to victory in this game is always choosing the Imperial or Initiative strategy cards. It's the easiest way to get victory points, and it's nearly mandatory. If you choose the strategy cards before others, always take the Imperial or Initiative. It's a classical move and there's really nothing more to be invented here. Do it if you want to win. If not, well, that's not any of my business then. When it comes to ships, it's worth remembering that even though dreadnoughts look cool, they suck. Building them is highly uneconomic. It's also one of the biggest flaws of the game. It's being kinda repaired, if you will, by the expansions. Even though dreadnoughts look cool and they have high battle attribute making the dice rolls easier, it's not worth building them. If you attach your admiral to them as a leader who would fly on them, it starts making sense. Nevertheless, dreadnoughts are rather a specialist unit that should be used for planetary bombardments. Don't treat them as a core unit of your fleet. On the other side, there are fighters, a great unit. It's really important to spam those. Try to have as many on the board as you can. They work as cheap cannon fodder. They provide us with lots of shooting, making the probability of hit much bigger.
Dużą ilość strzałów, wskutek czego po prostu prawdopodobieństwo zawsze...
When it comes to producing war sons, it's kinda sentencing yourself for a death row. When other players will figure out that you are trying to get the war son technology, you may immediately become a public enemy number 1. Hello again, this time from our dark headquarters, where everything is black and our only activity here is playing board games and explaining how to play them. As I was saying before, Twilight Imperium is a game for 3 to 6 players in which our goal is to claim galactic domination by achieving a number of goals, which will provide us with victory points. Score of victory points will be indicated using flag counters.
W grze mamy do wyboru 10 kosmicznych ras.
There are 10 races from which we can choose from. Every one of them is different and has its own special abilities. I will describe them to you briefly, tell you how they differ from each other and present the flavor of gameplay.
Jaki jest ich jak gdyby smak, flavor grania nimi, żebyście lepiej zrozumieli, co dokładnie oferuje Twilight Imperium. Przede wszystkim tutaj przede mną.
Right in front of me there's a race sheet. Every race is presented with those, and in this particular example, it's the Haken Empire race. It's a race of cat-like cosmic merchants originating from a desert planet which will remind you of Dune. Their special abilities will help them during the trade step of the game and will rapidly make them an economic powerhouse.
Wyróżniają się też specjalnymi zdolnościami, które w rozgrywce pomagają im w fazie handlu oraz tworzą z nich bardzo szybko ekonomiczną potęgę.
The next race is Sardak Nor, a race of insectoid warriors. They don't have any special abilities, but they sure can lay down the hurt when it comes down to war. If you are into military supremacy, they are great to play.
Mocno się tłuką. Świetnie gra się nimi, jeśli planujecie militarną supremację w galaktyce. Kolejną rasą...
The Xcha Kingdom is the race of overgrown space turtles which are really into diplomacy and politics, and they are good in what they do. In the politics steps of the game, you'll have the unique ability to cancel bills of the Galactic Council.
Przegłosowywania ustaw, wetowania ustaw niemożliwą praktycznie dla żadnej innej rasy.
The Soul Federation, which are basically humans. You can imagine them as any kind of space troopers from any American movie about space troopers who are on a mission to kick somebody's ass. It looks just the same in this game. We have plenty of ground forces, which we deploy on planets, and then we kick some ass. This is what Soul excels at. Playing them, you will always have lots of infantry.
I w tym dobrzy są ludzie, i dzięki nim będziecie mieli tej piechoty naprawdę dużo.
Next race is the Nano Collective. It's a race of mermaid-looking space telepaths. They are doing great in space battles using fighters, and by mind-reading skills they possess, they are allowed to always go first in the turn. No matter what, they have the highest initiative.
Mają najwyższą inicjatywę, zawsze jadą jako pierwsi w grze.
Barony of Letnev is a race we always joke about to be space Nazis. That's because they kinda look this way and they are being played that way. Big heavy spaceships backed by industrial power. Barony of Letnev has the special ability that when you spay and trade goods, you can buff your units so they can fight better. This race right here are Space Pirates, the Mentak Coalition. They are former prisoners of a central galactic prison planet. As they regain their freedom during Twilight Wars, they start their pirate empire. They possess many abilities focusing on stealing from other players and organizing small raids to weaken the enemy.
Wiele zdolności związanych właśnie z okradaniem innych ras lub też takimi małymi po prostu rajdami w kosmosie pirackimi właśnie przeciwko innym flotom.
I really like this race, Universities of Jolna. In this case, you'll be playing a race of genius deep sea fish closed in giant jaws so they wouldn't implode, and it looks and sounds kinda stupid when I say it. They don't do well in space battles, but they have access to great technologies, and using those you'll quickly get ahead of everyone else.
Ale za to mają dostęp do naprawdę świetnych technologii, dzięki nim bardzo szybko wyprzedzimy wszystkich pozostałych graczy, rekompensując tak naprawdę sobie tym na każdym polu ich słabe zdolności fizyczne.
This name is kinda tricky. L1Z1X MindNet. They are quite similar to Star Trek's Borg race. These are fugitives of the race that used to rule the galaxy. They have chosen cybernetization, and after years of banishment, they return to reclaim the throne. They have pretty good access to technology and some powerful flagships. Last but not least, the Israel tribes is the race of smart, lizard, half Buggins, half my precious race involved in heavy spying. They have this really cool ability to look at opponents' action cards. They can also pass on their actions to act as a last player. That's all with the races.
Żeby działać jako ostatni. To na tyle, jeśli chodzi o rasy.
In Twilight Imperium, every time we play on a different board. I have a very small piece of board here, just for presentation purpose, but normally it's really big. It is built from this kind of hex tiles. Every player will get some of those and then, one after another, place it on the table. By that, you will be able to harm one another just by placing systems in a way that's uncomfortable for other players.
planszę, dzięki czemu możemy robić sobie nawzajem brzydkie niespodzianki, jeśli chodzi o to, kto jak bardzo wartościowe czy mniej wartościowe planety systemy będzie dostawał.
There are some important landmarks on each board. Yellow-edged systems, which are player home systems, red-edged systems, the special systems. There are no planets there, but there are some special rules for moving through them, like the supernova, which you cannot fly through, or asteroid field, which you can fly through, but you cannot ever park on it. Apart from that, there are empty space tiles, Mechatol Rex system, which is always the central planet of the galaxy. There will be a pandemonium surrounding this system, as many of the objectives are somehow connected with this planet. Some of the systems contain so-called wormholes, like this one. They are marked with a letter inside of the vortex sign.
One są zaznaczone taką specjalną, jak gdyby wirującą literką, tak to można nazwać.
Using those, you can travel galaxy-wide a lot quicker than using your normal ship's move. After choosing races, the objective deck will be built. We will capture these objectives to get victory points. The deck is made from two types of public objectives, of the first stage, yellow ones, and second stage, blue ones. The second stage objectives are kinda harder. The objectives will be revealed as the game progresses and every player will be allowed to accomplish them.
Żeby zdobyć jakąś tam ilość punktów, dzięki którym przybliży się do zwycięstwa. Oprócz tego,
apart from that, every player will get one secret objective, the red one. This is always a really hard task that will get you some extra points. It will usually take you at least half of the game to get it done. The objective is only for one player and they are being randomly given out to players each game. We will lay those small distance sense markers on each of the planets. It will hold some small surprises for a landing player. Red ones are obviously bad surprises, which we want to avoid, because they can cost us an entire invading force. You will want the green ones, as they can really give you this extra push. Unfortunately, in the early phases of the game, it can be quite stressful to lose one of your fleets by an accident.
Dostać i to też potrafi nas bardzo fajnie popchnąć do przodu. Niestety w początkowych fazach gry bywa, że jest to dość stresujące, jest to zdecydowanie zły fragment losowy tej gry. Za każdym razem...
Every time we are closing in on a planet containing a marker, we can choose from these options. Land on a planet, bombard the shit out of it using a dreadnought, or send a single fighter to scout the planet. This will delay our invasion, but we will now know if it's safe to land. This will allow us to leave bad surprises for our opponents and sometimes catch a special bonus.
Pozwoli nam dowiedzieć się wcześniej, co to jest i na przykład brzydkie niespodzianki zostawić dla naszych przeciwników lub też zainkasować specjalną premię związaną z tym, że dana niespodzianka, jeżeli jest skautowana właśnie przez myśliwiec, pozwala nam dostać coś więcej. Każdy z graczy...
Every player get a race sheet with described special abilities of the race, starting units, starting technologies, and some useful rules references. Apart from that, stats of all the ships in the game, and some amount of those small triangles. These, depending on when they lay, indicate how much strategic actions we can take, how many ships we can have, and how many tactical actions can we make. Those are basically flying around, shooting your lasers and building stuff.
Ile możemy wykonać akcji specjalnych, tak zwanych akcji strategicznych, ile możemy mieć floty na danym polu oraz ile możemy wykonać akcji tak zwanych taktycznych, czyli budowania, przemieszczania się, toczenia wojny. Oprócz tego...
These here are trade goods. This is a universal currency. We will use it to build ships, pay bribes and capture objectives. The core of the game consists of the strategy cards. Every turn they will allow us to make some special actions not available for other players. There are 8 of those cards and the most important are Imperial and Initiative card. Every turn you will take a new one and try to get Imperial and Initiative as often as you can. You won't win without those cards.
Albo inicjatywę, albo Imperiala. Inaczej nie wygracie. To jest niestety jedna z wad gry. Tak jak wcześniej mówiłem, kart strategii jest 8 i podobnie tak jak...
Similar to card game Citadels, choosing a strategy card will determine your initiative and order of play. First one is the initiative card. It will get us the speaker token. It gives us a tie-breaking vote in the Galaxy Council and ability to be the first one to choose new strategy card next turn. The second one is Diplomacy card, which will protect us from enemy attacks and refresh our planets. Next one is the Political card. This will engage Galactic Council and will lead to voting on new law cards, which will be used by players for negative interactions. It's really fun, but it will make the game longer, because debating on each new law, bargaining and bullying before the actual voting takes forever. Every new law will have a significant impact on the gameplay.
Nakłanianie innych graczy do tego, żeby głosowali tak czy siak za daną ustawą, która w wyraźny sposób zmienia w ogóle zasady całej gry lub naprawdę wpływa na komfort dla danej rasy grania, no jest naprawdę ważnym elementem i trwa czasami nawet wieki.
Fourth card is Logistics. It will get us some additional command counters, the triangles. It's really important because we'll need lots of those. Fifth one is Trade. It will get us trade goods and it opens negotiations for trade treaties.
Nawiązywać kontakty handlowe poprzez traktaty handlowe, które są bardzo istotne w grze. Szóstą kartą jest Warfare.
Sixth one is Warfare. It will provide us with additional speed and power when facing our enemies. Seventh one is Technology. As the name says, it will get us new technologies, providing fighting and production bonuses. The last one is the famous Imperial. It will get us victory points effortlessly. Last page of the rulebook presents a technology tree, bringing the memory of Master of Orion games. It will guide us through technologies and make us see what technologies are sadly beyond our capabilities of research. All of those technologies are really important. There are some additional rules in the game that give us this epic flavor of space battles and history in the making. First of them is letting ride the Warsons, which are totally not the Death Star, but seriously, everybody know what's up with that. If we have a carrier loaded with fighters, we can launch them for a suicide mission to destroy the Warsun. It's really hard to do, but there's always some hope and it's really fun.
Na takie słońce wojny grupę myśliwców, żeby one w samobójczym niemalże rajdzie dokonały zniszczenia tegoże Death Stara, co jest normalnie bardzo trudnym wysiłkiem, ale te myśliwce wysyłane niemalże na samobuja mają jakąś tam minimalną szansę. No budzi to oczywiście bardzo dużo fajnych emocji.
The second rule is letting us play with the leaders. Each race has 3 leader tokens with a cute little picture on it. There are 5 types of leaders: scientists, generals, admirals, diplomats and agents. Every type has different abilities.
Naukowiec, generał, admirał, dyplomata oraz agent. Każdy z nich ma zupełnie inne możliwości. Tutaj na przykład
Here we have a diplomat, a general and a scientist. It's pretty obvious what they excel at. It's really great that you can kidnap leaders from other players, execute them, trade or even send in your forces to get them back from the enemy. It takes us on an adventure. While we are not using some super special powers of our race, we can move throughout the galaxy and produce some cool stuff.
Możemy się ruszać po planszy i produkować sobie na niej różne fajne rzeczy.
There are 2 types of actions to do that. It's either a tactical action, laying down a command counter somewhere and flying your troops over there to do something, landing, producing, fighting, whatever, or the so-called transfer. This will activate only 2 systems and engage some traffic between them. Only in those 2 systems something interesting will happen.
2 systemy i tylko pomiędzy nimi odbywa się ruch, tylko w tych systemach coś ciekawego będzie się działo, jakaś produkcja. Zazwyczaj używamy tego, żeby po prostu rozbudować naszą infrastrukturę.
Okay, so because this is the first episode, this is how we rate games. First of all, the price compared to what we get inside of the box. The quality of production. The playability. Really important, because the game can be printed on toilet paper and still kick your ass. Random factors inside of the game. Do they make the game great or frustrating? And last but not least, impact on the genre. For example, utilizing some new mechanics or opening the new part of board games history, like Twilight Imperium. Rating those factors, we came up with a rating from 0 to 100%. When it comes to price compared to weight, the box is really jam-packed. It's like a small candy store. If lots of colorful pieces stimulates your brain, buy this game. When it comes to quality of the elements, the game is wonderful. Everything is nearly perfect. Only thing that I didn't like was the quality of cutting on the cardboard sheets. While you are pushing out the command counters, be cautious not to rip any of the illustrations on them. It's really worth saying that it would be nice of the publisher to enclose some string bags. You'll need card sleeves, boxes and string bags. It's too bad that the publisher didn't give us any additional edge tiles that would prevent the board from moving and falling apart.
Wypadałoby, żeby wydawca dodawał jednak chociażby minimum woreczki strunowe. Jeśli chodzi o braki w grze, na pewno potrzebujecie pudełeczek, woreczków strunowych oraz koszulek na karty. Naprawdę szkoda, że wydawca tego nie dodał. Szkoda również, że wydawca do tak drogiej gry nie dodał małych elementów, które ograniczały planszę, żeby ona nam się nie rozjeżdżała. Jeśli wam wydaje się, że
If you think you have a big table in your house, you're wrong. Go get yourself a bigger one. I'm telling you this. The game uses a lot of space, as you've seen before in the gameplay, and that was just a setup for few players.
A to jest rozgrywka tylko na parę graczy. Z dodatkiem sprawy się przedstawiają już zupełnie inaczej. Jeśli chodzi o grywalność,
The game is addictive and epic. You can really feel that you are some kind of galactic lord having an impact on the faith of the whole universe. There's a big downside to this game, however. It's really hard to get sufficient amount of friends who will have time for like 8 to 14 hours of gameplay. It's really hard in my age because people tend to have better things to do than playing with plastic figures. Of course, they are wrong. Who would like to do anything else than sit by the plastic, colorful spaceships? Come on!
oczywiście mylą się, nie mają lepszych rzeczy do roboty. No, kto by chciał robić coś innego niż siedzieć przy kolorowych figurkach? Come on. Jeśli chodzi o...
When it comes to the random factor, it's acceptable. Sometimes it's irritating to lose your entire army and landing forces, but it's a thing you can live with.
Który nam rozpieprzy całą armię i zepsuje nam wyraźnie przyjemność z grania.
When it comes to impact on board gaming, you cannot overrate that. If you wouldn't have Twilight Imperium, we wouldn't have Fantasy Flight Games. It was one of their first games, if not the first. This game made them big and helped them build their power. It's an iconic series. It's defining the new school Ameritrash, showing other games how the things should be done. Gigantic box, lots of stuff inside. The game is super cool.
Która pokazuje wszystkim innym grom, jak gra powinna być wygrana. Wielkie pudło, milion elementów. Naprawdę gra jest super miodna. Jeśli chodzi...
Our final rating is 83.5%. Really great. I'm recommending this game to all of you. You can fully identify with the role of a space emperor in this game, and the game will suck you in. If you are wondering, should I pay a small fortune for this thing? Then yes, you should. Well, of course, if you are not in self-deceit that you have better things to do than play with plastic spaceships, and we know that you don't.
Chyba, że wydaje ci się, że masz jakieś lepsze rzeczy do roboty niż bawienie się plastikowymi figurkami, a przecież nie masz.
If you like this approach on games, big, try out Rune Wars, lots of plastic there. It will grant you few hours of solid gameplay. If you like the theme, epic science fiction, try out a game that's coming out next year, set in the same universum, Rex the Final Days of an Empire. It will be great, you can count on that.
Epickość, science fiction, nawet miejscami takie palpowe science fiction, to możecie również się zainteresować grą, która wyjdzie w tym roku, która jest osadzona w tym samym uniwersum co Twilight Imperium. Jest to gra Rex Rise of the Empire, czy jakoś tak. Ale będzie naprawdę świetna i możecie naprawdę się na to skusić.
Thanks for watching. Shout out to Boardgames store. Really, if you have the time, come visit them and pick some great games up. Watch us next time to see the first video review of Shattered Empire on the internet.
Zachęcam Was również,
See ya.
żebyście oglądali nas w następnym odcinku przedstawię Wam pierwszą w sieci wideorecenzję dodatku do tej gry, Shattered Empire. No, do zobaczenia. Słuchajcie, dzięki Wam bardzo, że nas oglądaliście. Koniecznie polubcie nas na Facebooku, oglądnijcie naszą geek listę na Board Game Geeku, powiedzcie wszystkim swoim znajomym, zaszerujcie nas, polubcie nas na YouTubie, polubcie nas na Dailymotion, polubcie nas wszędzie, gdzie tylko możecie. Jeśli chcecie, możecie też sobie na przykład zrobić podkoszulek z napisem, że nas strasznie lubicie i oglądajcie następny nasz odcinek. Dzięki, cześć. Już tutaj miałem jakąś taką gumeczkę małą, ale widzę, że sobie ją zgubiłem, a to bardzo niedobrze, bo mam gumki, że tak powiem, na sztuki tutaj. Ja zasadniczo jestem gotowy. Czy potrzebujemy Pawła za kamerą? Czy jest zbędny? Możemy go zastrzelić. Cięcie, dobra. Nie cięcie. No właściwie to jest koniec mojego wydarzenia. A tutaj... No to cięcie.
Uwaga! Gotowi?
Paweł. Klepowi bardzo to, że był dzisiaj naszym tutaj... Dokładnie. No właśnie.